And
Hi, I'm Carrie. Welcome to your first violin lesson. For many of us, we start the violin for many different reasons. Maybe you went to an orchestra concert and you thought, oh, I want to be that first violinist in the front row, and that inspired you. Or maybe you're at like a fiddle fest and you saw someone on stage tap dancing and fiddling. So whatever your reasons for wanting to learn the violin, I promise you there's common ground between classical or fiddling or just recreational playing if you want to play pop tunes or just jam with your friends when they have a band. Either way, the violin is a very versatile instrument. There's so much you can do with it. And there's common ground again. So when you first get your violin, you'll have two things, the violin and the bow. Both very important, but for now we're just going to start with the violin. So if you put your bow down, ignore that for now. So you have your violin. There's many pieces to the violin I have to be careful of. This is the bridge. It plays a very important role. If you look inside your violin in this F-shaped hole called the F hole, you will see a stick, and that stick is called the sound post, and it holds the front of your violin apart from the back. And we have the strings, and the strings press on the bridge, which presses on the sound post, which keeps your violin apart. So if you ever open your case one day and you see your bridge is falling over, don't touch it. Call a professional and get some help. But that said, it's not going to happen very often. So your violin, you have many pieces. We have this fancy part here called the scroll. We have pegs, which are used for tuning. So if you're familiar with the guitar, same kind of concept. We also have tuners down here, which tune it to a smaller degree. Use the big pegs if your violin's going way out of tune. We have the peg here at the bottom. We have the tail piece, again the F holes. And as far as the violin itself, what it's made of approximately 4 different types of wood. The front of your violin is different from the back, which is different from the sides, which is different from this black piece here, which is called the fingerboard. All of these woods combined create an instrument which should produce a very warm sound, and depending upon where your violin was made, the woods it was made of, you're going to get very varied sounds. This particular violin was made in Germany in the early 20th century. And a lot of time we think, oh, older violins are better. Not necessarily. You can get some really awesome violins that were just made this year. If you prefer older violins, you just have to watch out because often they have cracks in them. And the second you have a crack in your violin, the sound is escaping. So imagine you're playing away, sound's going in, but you have a crack in the wood. It's going to go out there. So either if you do have a violin with a crack in it, get it fixed. Or just look for a violin. You get a new violin quite reasonably nowadays. Beginner violins can go for anywhere from $200 to $500, and that will definitely give you an idea of if it's the right instrument for you. So, turning to the bow. The bow is often neglected when it comes to the violin. We think, oh, it's just a stick with horsehair on it, but it's way more than that. The bow can also be made of many different types of wood. This one is a type of hardwood. Usually maple is used. You can also get bows which are made of snake wood, and I'm not sure if you can see it very well, but it is speckled and it has the skin, kind of like the look of the skin of a snake on it. And again, that produces a different sound. If the wood is harder, it's going to produce a different sound compared to a wood that is more flimsy. You can get horsehair as well. It's always made of horsehair. It comes in many different colors. We have the opportunity now to get horsehair that has rainbow colors in it, so if you're, younger and you want something flashy, you can actually get them to dye your horsehair so it looks like a rainbow, which is kind of fun. The bow itself is responsible for producing your sound. So when you first get your bow, it will be really loose. So if you hold your bow, the horsehair itself is going to be very flimsy. There's a screw down here. So you pick up your bow, there's a screw here, very slowly turn it clockwise. And keep turning it. Sometimes the screw is a bit stiff depending on your bow. Keep turning it until you look at the middle of your bow, and if you can put the width of a pencil through it, you know the width is perfect. Don't go anymore. If you start tightening it too much, you risk having all the horsehair pop off your bow, and then you have to get that repaired, so watch out. So keep it as if it's the width of a pencil and your bow is ready to go. Going back to the violin, it's quite difficult to tune the violin. For now, try and take it to your local music school. They can tune it for you. And if you have a piano or a tuner, check to see if the strings are in tune. And by that I mean there's 4 strings on the violin. They each have their own name. It goes G, D, A, and E. If you have a piano, play a G and just pluck the G string and see if it sounds relatively similar to the one on the piano. And do the same thing with the other 3 strings, the D, the A, and the E. If it's relatively in tune, we're good to go. So here we go. Put your bow down again. So your bow is now tightened. We're going to leave that aside for a second. When it comes to playing the violin, you want your violin to sit on your shoulder so it's relatively parallel with the ground. You don't want it down here. If it's down here, your sound is going into the ground. If it's too high up, the sound's projecting behind you. You want the sound, the F holes, which is where the sound comes out of, to project out, pretend there's an audience out there. That's where you want the sound to go. So you hold your violin, you put your chin, so you're looking at the tailpiece here, you put your chin on this side, which would be the left side of the violin. So you put your chin there, and it should fit nice and snug on the wood, or perhaps there's a black chin rest, that works as well, between the wood and the tailpiece, and just fit it right in there. I'm using it as shoulder rest. You don't necessarily need one because it does rest on your shoulder quite comfortably. However, if you feel like your shoulder is coming up to meet the violin, I would recommend getting a shoulder rest. They're available at your local music store. They range from $15 to $30, but it's something you'll have your entire violin career, so it's a good investment. Pop that on. This is the most common type of shoulder rest, and when you put it on, there's rubber on the edges, so you're not going to hurt your violin. And just make sure the curvature of the shoulder rest goes opposite to the violin. So once you have that on there, nice and snug, put your violin back up on your shoulder and just wiggle it around a bit because you want it to be comfortable. You don't want to feel like your shoulder's digging into it, your chin's digging into it, and just hold it there for a bit. And if it's your first time playing the violin, your arm might start to get tired. If that's the case, put your violin down, give a good shake, and then try it again. And in time, you'll be okay. So you have your violin up. What you want to do with your arm, when you hold your violin, you're holding it between your thumb and your index finger. You want to hold it with your thumb and your knuckle on your index finger. So you put your thumb on this side of the violin and you put your knuckle right there. So there should be a gap underneath the violin. Your hand should not be closed like that, because then once you close your hand like that, it's very tense, it's very stiff. You're not going to get the movement. So you want it to be open like that. So you put on your violin like that, you put your violin back up on your shoulder, and now just loosen it up a bit, make it feel comfortable, and you have your hand position. When you're holding the violin, you want to make sure your fingers aren't out to the side. If you're playing a really fast piece, how are you going to reach in time to hit the notes? So make sure your fingers curve over the violin so that they're curved over each and every string. So I would recommend for even 10 minutes, just hold your violin like this or under your shoulder, whatever works for you, or under your arm, whatever works for you. Put your violin up on your shoulder and practice just getting into position. That's the best thing you can do. And check, is my violin parallel? And if it is, great. And again, your bow, make sure it's tight. And when you're done playing, you have to loosen your bow. So that's your first introduction to the violin. How to hold it, all the different pieces, how to tune it, and how to look after your bow. Hello, so holding the bow. You have to put your violin down for this part. I know we're not going to make any sound yet, which can be a bit of a disappointment, but you have to learn how to hold the bow before we can even begin to touch the strings of the violin. So let's get your bow. You take it out of your case. Assume all the horsehair is loose, so it's falling down a little bit. Again, tighten your bow. There's a screw at the bottom here. You're going to screw it until you reach the width of a pencil. You don't want it too tight, or else the horsehair can pop off, but you don't want it too loose, or else when you play, the horsehair is going to rub against the wood and you'll just scratch your bow, which is not good. So your bow is now tight. To hold your bow, you're going to take your right hand holds your bow. If you're left-handed, doesn't matter, you still hold your bow in your right hand. So just casually put your arm down at your side and just let it hang there nice and relaxed. And now bring your arm up, keeping that same relaxed feel. Bring it up as if you were playing a fake violin. And your hand will probably be nice and loose like this. And then gradually put your bow there. And that's, give or take, your bowing position. There's a couple things we need to tweak, but for the most part, that is what you're going to do. So if you ever forget how to hold your bow, put your arm back down to your side, shake it out, make it nice and relaxed so your fingers are limp. Bring your arm back up, put your bow there, and perfect. So A few things you need to do for details. Your thumb is very, very important. Your thumb is it holds the bow, it grips the bow so you don't drop it when you play. Your thumb is going to be tucked into this little groove right here. So you'll see there should be a little padded section on your bow and then a piece of plastic. Your thumb is going to go right there. And if it hits the metal part of your bow or horsehair, that's absolutely fine. That's not wrong at all. Your third and fourth finger, so these two here, they're going to stay together. So if you need to, you can put a little piece of tape around the two of your fingers and tape them together, just for now, not permanently. And if you look at your bow, there's a little circle here. So your thumb is tucked in the little U shape, and these two fingers, which are stuck together, are going to cover that white circle. So you cover that, and you almost have your bow hold. Your pinky, who's flying out to the side here, you're going to put him just above the silver screw at the end. Don't put him on the silver, it's just too far back to stretch. Put him on the wood, make sure it's on the wood. And then the only finger left is your index finger. This one is responsible for hugging the bow. That's how you're going to get soft and loud when you're playing the violin. It's all to do with your index finger. So all of your muscle is going to transfer through your arm to your index finger, and that's how you're going to put the pressure on your bow. So if you find your knuckle, you're going to lay it down on the metal part of your bow, which is just above the padded section. So you put it down and it's going to wrap around the bow. So you're hugging the bow. So remember, you're hugging the bow with your index finger. Your third and fourth finger are stuck together, covering the circle. And your pinky is nice and curved. Don't have them straight out. You want to avoid tension. You don't want to have any, fingers straight out or stiff. Just make it nice and loose and relaxed. So your pinky's nicely curved, just sitting on the wooden part, and your thumb is tucked into the U. And that should be a very firm hold, relaxed, no tension. Really look for tension and look at your hand and think, is everything curved? That's good. If it's stretched out, think, just try and loosen it up and hug the bow. So there you have it. Okay, so now you know how to hold the bow, how to hold your violin, and it's time to put it all together. So don't panic, take a deep breath, and you can do this. So remember, your violin is being held with your thumb and the knuckle of your index finger. So you're going to take that, place it on what we call the fingerboard. This is the fingerboard here, the long skinny part. Put it here, gradually put your violin up on your shoulder. Wiggle it in so it feels nice and comfortable. Find that groove in your violin where your chin can sit comfortably. Once you've found that, make sure your violin is parallel to the floor, and then you have your bow. Tuck your thumb into the U. Your pinky sits on the wood, nice and curved. Your index finger hugs the bow, and your third and fourth finger are together, covering the circle on your bow. So there's two types of bows. There's up bows and down bows. So up and down. Down is this direction, and up would be. For now, we're going to start with a down bow. So you're going to start leaving about an inch of horsehair. So you want to measure up about an inch and place your bow on the string. And when you move your arm, you want to keep your speed very steady. If your speed isn't steady, you'll get a wavering sound. You might crunch a little bit. So if you hear things like this, don't panic. That's okay. That's actually really good. If you get a sound like that, you hear how it clears up. So you do get the pure once your bow starts moving. So all you have to do is work on making that clear sound and matching the pressure of your arm, which is going through your bow, with the strength of the string, because this is just a metal string. If you press too hard, you choke the sound. So you don't want to choke the sound, but you don't want to play too light. That's like a feather and it just is too wispy. So these are things you'll think about as you do your first bow stroke. So again, violin up, bow in your hand, place your bow on the string. No flying starts, don't come in with a big swoop. Bow on the string, and now you want to think, okay, don't press too hard. If the horsehair is hitting the wood of your bow, you're pressing too hard. So lighten up a bit, have some distance between the horsehair and the wood, and then just take a deep breath and move your bow. And just let it ring. And just hear that sound. And again, we're just going to keep doing down bows. Any string at all is fine. If you like the lower strings, go for it. again, when you're doing your down bows, put your bow on the string first and then move. Now, what I recommend is that you play in front of a mirror, especially for this exercise, because your bow could go very crooked and you won't know it. Your bow could be going sliding across the strings or this direction, and you'll get a really horrible sound. So we want to avoid that. What you want to do when you play your violin is play right in the middle of the bridge and the fingerboard. So you want to try and find the middle and make sure your bow meets the middle of the string at a 90-degree angle. So look in the mirror, see if it's 9 degrees, and then start playing and just working that down bow. Okay, so as many of you are probably familiar, you can play the violin different ways. The fiddle, just so you know, is not different from the violin. It just depends how you play it and what sound you produce. So we'll start with the most common, which is your classical violin music. So when I say classical, you're thinking from late 1700s, usually the 1820s to, let's be generous. Let's say 1780 to 1850, 1860. So we're talking Beethoven, Mozart, Haydn, all of the really famous musicians. So when you turn on your radio and you hear classical music, that's what you're hearing. Music from about a 75 to 80 year period. I will demonstrate for you. A very famous classical tune, you'll probably recognize it. If you've been to a wedding, you've probably heard it there, called Pachelbel's Canon. So with the classical style, it depends on the music you're playing, but predominantly there's a lot of vibrato, which is the rocking motion of the hand, very full bows. If you have a bow of this length, you're going to use the entire bow, and you're really going to try and draw that sound out of the string. You want a very firm sound, nothing too wispy, nothing too short and crisp, something that really takes the sound of the violin and makes the most of it. And just that full sound, and there you have the classical style. Okay, so another very popular style in the violin is fiddling. When you fiddle, often you're going to hold your bow up higher. You don't have to. You can keep your bow hold just right down there if you like. Sometimes though, if you want to move faster, have a lighter sound, and kind of brush the string, you move it up a hand's length, just like 3 inches or so. So not too high up that you're, halfway up the bow, but just a little bit so you're away from, this is the heaviest part of the bow, so you want to move away from that and put some pressure higher up. There's many different types of fiddle tunes. We have reels, jigs, waltzes, and they're mainly all dances. So when you play a fiddle tune, often when you get the music, it might be only 2 lines. You think, oh, it's so short. How do you play a fiddle tune when it's only 2 lines? But you repeat it, and every time you repeat it, maybe you speed it up or you slow it down, you add in more notes, you take out some notes, anything that makes it just slightly different each time you play it. Because in your head, you want to be picturing dancers. So you think, okay, if someone's dancing, they're going to dance for what, 3, 4, 5 minutes? So you have to try and keep the music going. So a quick little demonstration of that. This is a really common reel, known as the Devil's Reel or the Devil's Dream. And again, with fiddle tunes, there's many common names. So if there's a favorite fiddle tune you have and it's called, the jig of, the first or fourth, don't think everyone calls it that. It's just, it could be called 10 different things, so watch out. So.
for watching, and please subscribe.